You remember Spock and Kirk in Star Trek?
Right.
They're groups of women who write stories about them with a twist that Spock and Kirk were gay. They're stories about them traveling throughout the universe and exploring their gay relationship. An anthropologist, Symons, who's written a book about it, tells us the story of these group of women.
Slash fiction is a kind of romance fiction that is written by and for heterosexual women, in which the two lovers are both men. And for it to be true slash, the male pairing has to be expropriated from some kind of media. So, and that's where slash started, actually. It started in the 1970s with women trekkers starting to write fiction, their own fiction, about Kirk and Spock, in which the notion was that Kirk and Spock become lovers. And the word slash refers to the punctuation mark that separates their names. So Kirk Spock slash is Kirk slash Spock, or K slash S. Here's an example of something that seemed to me really bizarre, that I had no explanation for it. And it wasn't something that one woman or two women did. Once it started, once the ball got rolling, really women fans of virtually every cop and spy and sci-fi and adventure series that had two buddies, the women fans would start to write slash. So for women to write slash, they have to be fans of the show, and they have to find at least one of the pair attractive. And then they write slash from the point of view of the other one. And anyway, you have lots of women doing this. You have this large international community of women who are reading and writing slash. If you put slash in any search engine, you get hundreds and hundreds of sites with just every possible kind of a pairing. There's Holmes and Watson slash. I was intensely curious about it when I discovered it, because I couldn't see of any reason why any woman would ever want to read or write slash. My take on it was that,
given that you've written a book,
yeah,
so you obviously got from dumbfounded to insight.
Well, I figured that there's more in female sexuality than was dreamt of in my philosophy, and I wanted to find out what aspect of female sexuality managed to stay under my radar all those years. And one of the things that struck me first about them was that they're really not that different from mainstream women's romances, that many of the same characteristics come up again and again. It's actually fascinating. I mean, it's a fascinating topic. When I first started reading it, things just jumped out at me. One is that it was clear to me, in some kind of psychological sense, that in these long descriptions, usually of anal intercourse, that the basic fantasy wasn't anal intercourse. The basic fantasy, I believe, was vaginal intercourse, but it was played out on male bodies. And in fact, if you go back to the very early days of slash, when these women trekkers were the only slash writers, they were making all kinds of mistakes. They would have anal intercourse would be conducted without any lubricant, and multiple orgasms, simultaneous orgasms, things that weren't really likely to happen in male-male sex. And then when these things were pointed out to them, they read The Joy of Gay Sex, and they became sophisticated, and they started writing much more realistic sex scenes. And so a tube of lubricant would just happen to be in a bedside table when it was needed, and so forth. But if you read it, it seems clear to me that the underlying psychology is still the same.
And that appeals to prototype female interest?
Romance heroes, whether they're of mainstream romances or slash fiction, are in a sense warriors. They may not literally be warriors, but they have the qualities of successful warriors, and they have the qualities that our female ancestors would have admired in a male throughout the long course of human evolutionary history. So what happens in a mainstream romance is that the heroine overcomes all these obstacles and eventually captures and marries this superb Mr. Warrior. The slash fantasy is not of being Mrs. Warrior, it's being a co-warrior. It's having shared adventure, risk-taking, danger, but also this permanent monogamous union. And that's a key element that is always emphasized in slash, that this is monogamous, and it's nothing like real gay male sex is.